Recording's in progress and we're starting.
That was very robotic.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight for our directing and acting panel. My name is Maihan. I'm with the Help Network and I'll be here asking questions tonight. But enough about me. I am joined by three lovely ladies and we will have an addition later on tonight. But would you guys like to introduce yourselves with your name, whether you started acting or directing first, and if you had to pick a project that you directed to introduce yourself, like your elevator pitch, what would it be? That was a lot, so hopefully, hopefully you'll remember that. Let's go with Stephanie first.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure,
not me.
sure. Start with me, of course. What were the questions? My name is Stephanie Comere. Hi. Help me. What was that?
Did
What
you
was that?
start acting or did you start directing first?
Started acting 20 years ago. Directing came way later. And what's an elevator pitch for what?
Like, what's a project that you worked on that you would use to introduce yourself, like in an
Oh
elevator pitch?
man. Oh. Ah, mm,
Something that you liked.
I mean, my like the one that's like been like 6 years and like once a month is Mr. Love, Queen's Choice.
Ooh.
Very
That's
hot boys, very sexy stuff, you
that's a
know.
good one. That's a good one. Thank you, Stephanie. Let's go to Francesca.
Hello, I am Francesca Calo. I started as an actor, more in theater, film, and then moved to voiceover, and then I started directing around the pandemic. Elevator pitch. I guess my first one was Kingdom, for Funimation, which is an anime that takes place in China, and then I did on the other spectrum of genres, uh, a movie called My Only Girl, which is on Netflix.
Ooh. Yay, welcome.
Yay.
And Katiana.
Hi guys, I'm Katiana Sarkissian. I started acting and directing kind of at the same time. Like I went to college and I knew I wanted to be an actor, and then I kind of fell in love with directing for games too. So when I wasn't studying acting at SDA at USC, I was helping out at the games program, directing and kind of doing the production for voiceover for their advanced game projects. So after that, I kept in touch with the studio and I started directing Fallout 76. I'm one of the directors on that. Yeah.
Cool. Like I said, I will be asking some questions, but if anyone in chat has other questions that they wanted to ask, feel free to use the Q&A box and we'll do our best to kind of get through as many as we can. All right. So, first things first, how did you start directing projects? Like what was the start and how did you how were you able to kind of like network through that? I don't know if anyone wanted to jump in first or if you wanted me to call on someone. Cuz I'm going to call on
Someone is
Stephanie.
calling.
I think this is now our order.
Yeah,
I know, right?
I am
It's like,
going in like an order.
Yeah.
uh, so so I was in production. So while I was still a voice actress, I was also working in production at Blindlight actually. And th at some point they just ended up asking me if I was interested in directing. And so if I'm honest, that gave me like my anxiety meter just like and I'm just like I don't want to do it, but I feel like I have to do it. So so I did it, and it was scary, but I kind of liked it, and then just kind of kept going on from there. So yeah, yeah.
From
But
that moment, how did you continue to get, was it just more people asking you to keep doing it or were you starting to tell people I'm directing now?
you know what? I've actually never went. I personally have never gone out and tried to get directing work. It was just kind of like I was with Blindlight, and then and then keywords is associated, and so I was working with keywords, and so yeah, and they just keep me really busy, and yeah, I've never gone out looking. I should probably, but
But
I
that's
haven't
good.
yet.
That's good that people like they noticed your work the first time and then they just kept giving you work, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just kept getting work. So
What
That's
about
not,
you?
that's so
Oh,
not helpful. Sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. What about you, Fran? How did you start?
So similarly, I started as an actor first and had done that, and then I was working production for NYAV Post during the pandemic. And during that time, I had begun to be more interested in directing as a whole. I come from a film family, so I've always been kind of immersed in different aspects of the industry, and I always enjoy like all aspects of the industry, whether it's acting, whether it's production or directing. So I started getting interested in directing, and that time during the pandemic, a lot of the studios were getting a lot of like influx from other studios because they were so overwhelmed because they needed to outsource to studios. So
Mm-hmm.
NYV needed specifically they were looking for a Chinese director for one of their projects, Kingdom, because it is a historically Chinese tale. And I said I was interested, and they were like, okay, great, here you go. And I was like, okay, great. And it was a very deep end dive because everything that could go wrong went wrong. And
Oh
it was like a
Nice.
massive Kingdom is an anime, it's an ADR production. It's a massive cast. I think like in the first two episodes, we had already hit like 1,000 incidental
Oh,
characters
damn.
in
wow.
addition to the main. So it was very much like, here you go, take it, and then run with it. But it was a really good learning curve. And then from there, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed directing and being a part of it. So I expressed more interest with them. They gave me more stuff. And then I started reaching out to other studios and started working with IUNO. Um, yeah, and I'm still like in the new stages and still reaching out to
Mm-hmm.
places, but I like it, so hopefully I'll continue.
Did you find that with your like later directing gigs that because of all the challenges that you faced for your first one, everything was easy and you're like, oh, I've handled this something like this before, or did it just
Yes.
get like harder?
Yeah. Like literally everything that could go wrong because we were also recording remotely. It was all
Mm.
remote too. So there was those aspects, and then like we had to replace actors, and we had to like it was a lot of screaming, and we had to deal with vocal stress, and it was talking about like how you manage every specific thing, and then it was like production stuff that went wrong. So it definitely did help me. Like the rest of it was like, okay, I know how to handle certain situations now. Everything else is a piece of cake. And I'm like, you never know what's going to happen, right? When you're in a session, anything could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it does give you just like this mentality of like, oh, okay, we'll have to handle it because if we don't, the work won't get done. So you just jump in and do it. But having the experience did help. And having the experience, sorry, I'm rambling, but having the experience as like an actor as well also helped in the directing seat because I knew on the what we were going through on the actor side too if something went wrong. So I was able
Mm.
to navigate it that way as well.
Oh, I love that. And that's exactly what like we wanted to talk about tonight. So that's awesome.
I read.
Tatiana, yay!
Yeah.
Thank you for reading.
Yeah.
Tatiana, how about you? How did you start?
Um, so I think my like order of operations was when I was still in college and I was like, do I want to do voiceover? Do I not want to do it? I was like, okay, I should probably get internship experience and kind of understand the world. I'm taking my acting classes, but I think having a holistic idea of how the industry works is important. So I did an internship with Horseless Cowboy, which is where I met Stephanie. I don't know if you
Oh,
remember, but
Oh,
like
I
Tim
completely
connected
remember.
us.
Yeah,
And I thought you
yeah.
were like so cool. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Stephanie. So small world. I'm really happy that I'm like on a panel with you now. And you too,
Yeah, no,
Francesca.
that's so cool.
Um, but yeah, I did that internship, and it was a production internship, and so I kind of understood their world, and they stuck with mostly dubbing, and then a couple games here and there, but they kind of gave me my first glimpse into like behind the scenes for voiceover, and then after that, that experience kind of allowed me to reach out to these game students once things resumed in person again, because this was during COVID. And I was like, hey, I've worked on these dubs, I've worked on these games as an intern. If you guys want voiceover, I think what you guys make is really cool, and I'd love to be a part of it. And so that was how I started getting some experience in like student projects. And then I had heard through the grapevine that one of the faculty members at USC knew a studio in Burbank. And I was like, oh, we got to get on that. We got to lock in and like make that connect. And so uh, I asked the game student who was in charge of that project, hey, can you reach out to this person? Because I've never met them in person. You're their student. Could you like make this happen? And they didn't. A week goes by. Hey, could you reach out? Another week goes by. Hey, can you make this happen, please? And then again, no. So I'm like, all right, screw it. I'm emailing this head of faculty, whoever it is. I made the connect happen. I was like, hey, I've done this internship experience. I want to make this connect happen if possible. Please, if there's any way we can talk so you could, meet me in person, make sure I'm not a weirdo.
That's
And
good.
so we set up so I met with the faculty member, and then they connected us to the studio in Burbank, and then they became my mentors for directing the student projects. And after that, I stayed in touch. I did some assistant work with them, and then one day they were like, "Hey, one of our directors canceled last minute. Would you want to direct? Like we saw you work on these student projects. We want to give you a shot." And so I did, and I guess they liked it, and now I'm
Wow.
working on the professional projects. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Do you
That
find
was a
that?
long ramble, sorry.
No, it's not at all. It was perfect. Chef's
Yeah.
kiss.
My takeaway from that was don't trust people. Like, don't ask for help. They're not going to
You
help
gotta
you.
just do everything yourselves.
Oh,
Exactly.
perfect
Perfect
Hello.
timing.
timing.
Wow. I thought that was you were going to be
How?
on a lot later, but that was
I
perfect.
hustled home
Oh,
quickly.
thank you. Thank you for hustling
Traffic,
home.
yeah, traffic played nicely.
So, that was just an example of balancing, life and directing. Brooke just got back from a directing session. So, thank you for joining us, Brooke. We just did our
Oh,
introductions. Would you like to introduce yourself?
uh,
Maybe
yeah.
explain.
Same questions. It's only fair.
Oh, all right. Yeah. What questions do I have?
Did you start acting first or directing first? And then if you had to pitch yourself with one project, what project would that be?
Okay. So yes, acting first, much earlier than directing. And if I had to pitch myself for a project, it would be I would kill to direct or act in the next Mass Effect game. It's
Oh,
my
Oh, me
it
too.
it's my favorite trilogy of games, and
Oh,
I would yeah.
you might have to fight Fran for it. Or maybe
I am
there's two
dying.
directors.
There's enough
Just
room for us
move.
Yeah.
both.
There you
Yeah,
go.
there are a lot of trees those they go
Yeah,
through.
yeah, it's fine.
It's gonna be so good.
Brooke, since you're
Yeah,
here, unless you wanted a little bit time to settle.
I'm settled. I'm ready to go.
Perfect. How did you start start directing?
So I was a PA, well, a PA at Cartoon Network, and then I eventually became a production coordinator over at Wild Brain on the How to Train Your Dragon TV series, and I was actually the one who booked all the talent and booked the studio. And so I was basically just watching voice directors work for like 7 years, like Sue Blue and Marsha Goodman and my executive producers. And then after a while, you sort of just by osmosis are like, wait a minute, I think I could do this. And so I started watching and seeing things I liked and things I didn't like and sort of whatnot. And then got to a point where I felt comfortable enough to be like, hey, if you need a day off or whatever, I'll cover. And so they just started letting me cover. And then eventually my big break was on Trollhunters when or I think it was Three Below, the second series, when the director was like, yeah, we can't cover tomorrow. And then I went and I directed Glenn Close. And there it was from those humble beginnings. And then it just went from there. So.
For you, Brooke, for your later directing gigs, did people reach out to you because of your experience, or did you start to tell people that you were directing, and how did you network?
It was a lot more, yeah. At the beginning, it was a lot more. I was getting offered things because of people I had worked with. So, obviously, being in the DreamWorks pipeline, I was getting kind of that. But then the Hageman brothers, who had done Trollhunters went to Nickelodeon and were doing Star Trek Prodigy, so they told Nickelodeon they wanted me to come over and direct. Yeah, and then it was kind of word of mouth, and but then eventually you do kind of have to hustle and reach
Mm-hmm.
out to places, but yeah. So, but networking and just working with people and I guess being pleasant helped. Yeah,
Being
That's
nice is
good.
good.
yeah,
That is good.
yeah.
So it sounds like everyone kind of had the like work in production and then became a director kind of pipeline, which is really, really interesting. I'm assuming that's not the case for everyone, but it's the case for everyone here. um, but everyone seems to have experience working in different genres, like games, dubbing, anime. What would you say is your kind of directing style? Like, how do you change your directing styles depending on what genre you're working with? If we can go to Stephanie first. You look like you're thinking about your answer. That's why I want to call it.
Oh, because I'm thinking about it. I see. Like, it's fine.
That's why you just have to have resting, like, no face.
It's true.
Just
It's true.
like
I like it. Just yeah, my face is just it just keeps going to weird contorted places. I can't help it. um. So I mean, genres. My main thing is games. I'm like always directing games. I was directing some like little animations before I was doing the games. So I have a little bit of that, but oh, are you talking about like the different genres of games or just like the different genres of everything?
I
Like,
guess everything. So like you including among games, like I guess I'm more interested in knowing like do you change your directing styles depending on the project you're working with and
oh, well, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, it depends. I mean, if we're talking about like specific, like, oh, between animation, games, I was directing some like commercial demos and things like between those things. Oh, yeah, for sure. Um, it's going to depend on like what exactly, obviously, what you're going for. But even within games, like there's just so many different types of games.
mhm
So, yeah, for like I was directing a bunch of like military style ones.
mhm
Those ones are easy. It's like all call outs. Everybody knows what to do with that. And so it's kind of like a just a go, go, go. But like the narrative ones is like so much like there's so much more prep work and like making sure you understand exactly what's going on.
mhm
A lot of notes, and then just get in the session, and then you're directing. Yeah, because the information that you give the talent is like going to be completely like people need like what's the scene, what's like going on,
mhm
who are you talking to, versus the militaries where it's just like, okay, well, you're in a tank, you're just calling out to your people, you're on comms.
right.
So yeah. I mean, I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, it did. But do you find a genre that you excel at or you prefer?
uh you so the ones that are just kind of like narrative driven is kind of my forte, just because like
Mhm
I mean, like it's a lot more work because it's so much more prep, but there's just so much more you can do with it, and it's just
mhm
like playing the scene and stuff versus ones that are just kind of more like, okay, these are the lines that just like go places. Then it's just like, well, but yeah, definitely narrative for sure is yeah.
Nice, very cool. Fran, for you, how would you describe kind of like that learning curve working with different genres? Because you also do like dubbing and then anime and live action.
yeah, so most of my work has been in the ADR sphere, so the dubbing kind of sphere for anime and then live action as well. And then within that, different series versus film. I think the learning curve, well, each I think what you want to do is approach each, especially in dubbing, what you're trying to do is honor the original story and the original content as much as you can. And so depending on that, within anime, for example, there are so many different genres of anime and so many and it's different from a series versus a film. So I think for me, it's just learning curve in that it's like, how do I approach this specific story that the original content is trying to tell, and then
Mhm.
trying to honor it that way, whether it's comedy or shonen anime or like slice of life. Um, and I think within that, it's, as that's where kind of like acting background kind of helps, is to be able to tell the story and how you would tell the story. And then based on that, it's also, as Stephanie was saying, when you're talking to actors about what they need to do and how you're doing it. A shonen anime is going to be very different from like a slice of life tone.
Mm-hmm.
The latter is a little more like cinematic. Um, so just being able to understand the material as much as you can that you're working with, and then uh, translating that to the actors in order to help them get to where they need to be in that space, I think.
No, that's very that's very, very cool. It's good to know like that like it's a little bit common sense to like realize that different genres require different techniques and things like that, but it's nice to kind of like hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's not like, for me, it's not like, okay, what do I specifically need to do for each genre? It is mostly like, okay, let's see what the story is, what's happening in each moment, what happened in the scene before, what's happening in the scene after, so that you can be, because as a director, you're kind of the guiding post for the actors. You've been working on it for however long. The
Mm-hmm.
actors are just coming in for however many hours. They need to be able to trust you to understand the material that you've been working with. So, and I think if you stick to honoring, especially for dubbing, stick to honoring the content that you are working on,
Mm-hmm.
then the rest kind of follows after. It's not like I guess, not like a step by step, okay, here's what I need to do to hit like a comedy or like a live action drama or, um, a shonen anime. It's okay, what's the story we're trying to tell? What's the
Mm.
story we can do, and then let's honor it that way.
That makes a lot of sense. Katiana, for you, what were some challenges that you faced starting out versus some of the challenges you might uh, be facing as a more experienced director?
When I was first starting out, I guess I still kind of have it kind of lingering today, but I think it's just something that goes away with more directing. Just realizing like, wow, I'm directing people that I looked up to that were inspirations for me, and it's kind of that imposter syndrome a little
Mm.
of like, I'm so new at this. I just don't want to, let down anyone, let down the client or let down the actor. I want to make sure that I'm supposed to be in this space. And I think the way you overcome that is just reminding yourself, hey, this is a job. You were assigned this position for a reason, and just do the work. Make sure that the client is happy, make sure the actor is comfortable and kicking ass, and you're golden. Like that's your job. You're there to, be the link between client and actor and help make magic, you know? So get out of your head, I guess. But that I need to do that with everything, I guess.
I think a lot of people have that problem
Mhm.
of getting too much in their heads.
Mhm.
Brooke, do you have that problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think as actors first, and then you a director. I think we're all just built-in people pleasers.
Mm.
We just and I think imposter syndrome is real, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I've been doing VO for 25 years and directing almost 10, and I still have moments where I'm like, oh my god, should I be in here? And I just think sometimes it's and I usually have it. I get anxiety at the beginning of any project because there's a lot of unknown, and then once I sink into it and I'm comfortable, then it's not a big deal. But yeah, I mean, it's always important, I think, for people to know that it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, that sort of anxiety or whatnot is natural, and you're not alone in
Mm.
feeling it.
Also, I think it means you care, which is
Uh,
great.
Mm-hmm.
I care too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you didn't like care, then maybe you have
Well,
to
and
think
if
about
you
that.
don't care, how do you expect an actor to give a shit?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it's a two-way street, and I think an actor also feeds off your enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Totally.
if you're enthusiastic about the project and you know what yeah, then the actor's like, all right, I'm game, I'm along, and I'm here to play.
Right. Um, I guess kind of going off of the imposter syndrome, how do you kind of like set your rates and things like that? Like, do you change that based on your experience, or is it based on projects, or like do you feel like you're able to kind of like set your own rates to anyone? Unless you want me to go around.
Well, I think like it's
Whoa,
the same with
talking about money? Oh no. Oh no.
X-nay on the money, nay. I think it's the same as when you're approaching your rates as an actor. Like you want to look at the standards for the industry, because like directing for a video game might be different than ADR standards, etc. And you don't want to undercut any of your peers either, just because you wanna get the job. I mean, obviously, like gaining the experience and everything, I feel like as a new actor or director, there is a tendency to want to undercut because you want to get the job. And maybe that's okay for your first one, but know that you can do it and it's okay to ask for those rates, and you should ask for what you deserve, because this is a job. You have to make a living. I mean, you have to do what you need to do, and even though it can be fun, like it's still a business. It's a show business. It's not like just for fun and play. So you need to be able to I think stand up for yourself, and I think people respect when you know your own worth as well, whether you're an actor or director or both.
I think as a culture, we are way too afraid to talk money. And I think, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of companies that enjoy that immensely, right? Because if you can't compare notes, right, how can you ever have a standard? And it's tricky. Like what Fran said, well, how do I know I'm undercutting someone, right? Voice directors are a very weird thing. We're not union. No union wants us, right? So we're floating in the ether. And I don't feel we talk to each other as much as we should. And I think it's because we're not a weird cohesive group. We're all just these sort of disparate floating entities. And and so it's tough, right? Because it is like you'd like to be like, oh, I've got this new gig. What are people charging? What is a rate? And things like that. So I don't know. Maybe we all start yapping, talking to each
Yeah.
other about stuff, because it is one of those weird things, that it is. It's not like acting, where acting sort of has established norms, but we really don't. It's just sort of a very Wild West type of thing.
Is there a place for people to figure out what the standard is, or is it just talking to people?
I would say
I
that
think
it's kind of a studio thing. Like studios kind of have their own what they want to pay people. So my experience is it was always just like, this is what we pay. And so you go with that. And I'll be honest, like I've been working with a studio. I've seen people raise their rates, and I've seen them stop getting the work. So it depends on what people are willing to pay, and to support that as well. I had this other studio reach out to me, like someone had mentioned my name to them, and so they reached out to me asking like, oh, we're interested in having you direct for us. What are your rates? I just gave them the rates that I was getting at this other studio, and I never heard from them again. So they just that was too much for them. So it's I feel like directing is one of those things where it's like they have their established rates that they want to pay. If you're like, if you've got like a ton of experience and they get in a game that like they want like, oh, we're gonna have like celebrity cast and we want someone like who's done a lot of this, then I can see them like going for bigger rates. But overall, I feel like they have their specific rates that they already have set. And if you're more than that, you're probably not going to work as much. Like that is my personal experience. So
To build
yeah,
off of that, I hate the question, what are
yeah,
your rates? Well, my
me
rate
too.
is the maximum that you're gonna pay me,
Exactly.
right?
You'd be like, yeah,
Right.
Here's the thing.
what's your budget?
Well, that's exactly it. It's like what are your rates? I don't want to. I'm not in high school. I don't want to play a guessing game with you.
Yeah,
What is your budgeted rate
Yeah.
for a voice director? Tell me what it is, and then we'll work from there, right? If it's a project I'm passionate about, okay, maybe I'll go for the lower rate because I really want to work on the project. But it's
right.
like this guessing game, right? Because I would much rather, be like, okay, yeah, what have you budgeted for a voice director, right? Is it per hour? Is it per episode? Is it whatever, right? But at least let them give you the information so then you can make an informed decision. Because the worst thing is, it's like, this is my rate, and then you don't hear from them again. And you're like, what are we doing? It's like I'm throwing darts at a dartboard in a dark room,
Exactly.
and it's ridiculous. So
And the studios, I feel like, love that. Like
well,
having the
yeah, but that's so
the
at this,
disparity.
I'm now no longer like, if they ask what are your rates, I'm like, honestly, I should ask you the question.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you paying voice directors?
Yeah.
And then go from there, because it's and plus rates are different. I'm not going to be able to charge a prelay animation rate at Nickelodeon to an anime company.
Right.
They don't have, their budgets are wildly different, right? So but you have to play, right? It's so yeah, that's my nickel.
If you know other directors that work for that studio and you're close with them, you can kind of, I mean, like I was the newbie, so I kind of talked to other directors that had either directed me before or like had worked with the studio. But yeah, it is kind of tough.
It's a good rule, for directing and acting, is to like, talk to your peers and figure out, so that way you can kind of like stand and unify and things like that.
I
Yeah,
think more people are doing it too. More people are having these conversations with each other because we're such a small community too. It would only hurt us if we didn't talk to
and you
each
don't,
other.
and because it is a tight knit community, you don't want the reputation of being the person that's undercutting all the time,
Right.
right? Because then it's a rising tide lifts all boats. But if someone undercuts, then all of a sudden that studio is like, oh, well, then everybody's going to work for this low rate,
Right.
And so yeah, I think communication is huge.
Um, comparing acting and directing, acting, there's opportunities to like take classes, read out loud, and do all these like practicey, acty thingies. Is there any type of practice type things for directing? Is it just like listening? How would you kind of keep your skills sharp?
It's just doing the work. Like, I mean, something like directing, like so people have asked me this before. It's like, oh, how do you learn direct? It's not something that you learn. It's all experience. Like things like pacing, that's all experience, and you can't get that, anywhere else. You just have to do the work. Because yeah, I've had actors come to me and ask, hey, I'm interested in getting into directing. Can I shadow you? I can never do it just because like studio clients always in session and NDA, all that stuff. It's just like it's not feasible. But I don't feel like that's something that can help them anyway, because like it's all, first of all, everybody has a different directing style. Like everybody directs differently. They do things differently. But also just the big experience of understanding pacing, getting the job done in the amount of time that you have, that's all experience. Like you just have to do it, trial and error. So I don't feel like it's something that just I mean, in terms of keeping your skills sharp, yeah, that's just working.
Mm.
But learning it, that's just on the job.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think you need to, like similar to what Stephanie's saying, you need to know all aspects of the industry. So I think there's a reason why a lot of us came from production too, in addition to acting. You need to know that, like, and it only helps you to know what happens behind the scenes. And like, do take acting classes as a director, even if you've never done it before and you don't ever want to act. Do take acting classes because you need to know how to speak to your actors. And you need to know how to be able to break down a script and understand the subtext of it and the emotionality. Yes, directing. I love that book.
If you have not gotten or read this book, do it. It is an awesome book. Directing Actors by Judith Weston. It's great. Yeah, and even for actors, if you read it, it's
yeah. And then know how to adapt a script if you want to do ADR or dubbing. Know how to know the like behind the scenes processes, because that will inform just your knowledge of what you need to do as a director. And like similarly to Stephanie, like shadowing can only take you so far, I think. Again, because so many people have so many different things, different styles, and you may not agree with the person that you're showing how they're speaking to their actor or whatever, or you may have a different approach to the story that you're about to tell. with your project. But learning all aspects of the industry and just knowing how each department works and how to speak to each department and all of that, how to speak to your engineer because you are going to need your engineer, and it's a what is it? It's a collaborative process. It's not just you and the actor. You need the engineer, and then you have to know how to translate what the client is saying, who's sitting behind you, and doesn't know how to speak to actors. So having a knowledge of everything only helps.
I think um, I'm gonna say something maybe a little against the tide, but I
Do
honestly
it, do
think
it.
I do think shadowing does really help. I think it's kind of like if you have never been in a booth before, like when I first shadowed sessions at my internship, I had never seen a real recording session before for dubbing. So seeing that and then also knowing, okay, the director has to juggle the line counts that we have to get through today, the client, the actor, so and so, that was kind of informative. But then that's like kind of like intelligence, right? And now you need to know how to apply it with wisdom. I don't know if I'm using the D&D terms right, but like basically it's like, okay, you have the textbook information, right? Like what you could see in school or something. You could watch a video on a session, but now you have to apply it. You need to use what you've learned. And that's where the real experience comes in, because now that you have this information, how are you going to apply it? So you could start off with, how I did with student projects, or if you have actor friends, you could maybe direct their auditions if they want your help. If they don't, then sorry. But if they want your help, you could help them out, and you could try to apply what you've learned in a shadowing session to that. And then I think shadowing helps not only because you kind of see how a real session works, but also because people who have shadowed, they're more likely to be called in if they need a last minute director, kind of like what happened with me. So that's kind of how they help too. But I do think they're important. I also think you need that application
Mm-hmm.
of the skills you learn and absorb in a session shadowing. Hope that made sense.
It did. Jun Yun's in chat and he said workout groups with friends. You get to direct
Yeah.
each other, and that's probably another practical way of kind of getting that practice. Would you say? Would
Yeah.
you agree?
But also always remember, every time you go into a session as an actor, you're watching a director work. You're
Mhm.
getting
Exactly.
a free other lesson on the other side of the glass, right? So take that to heart, because I think sometimes we forget, like, oh my gosh, there's a process. There's a process that's hitting me through the glass. Absorb it, right? Because then you can start seeing, ooh, that director, I did not like how they directed me. Ooh, I had a
Mhm.
great time in this session. Because for me, my whole rubric was like, I want to be the director that I would want to work with,
Mhm.
right? And then I started patterning and doing things like that, you know? So,
Yeah, that was exactly me too. It's like everything that I do when I'm directing, it's like this is how I would want to be. Because I've been in sessions as an actor where I don't know, just the directing did not work with me. Like I was asked to like do like 20 lines in a row. There were like conversations going on in between, and I'm just, you want me to go through all of these twice? And I'm just like, this, like, it didn't work for me as an actor.
mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go through each line, make sure everybody like knows exactly what's going on, here. But like, yeah, I catered everything around what, like my own experience as an actor in the booth in terms of like what I think that actors would want. And plenty of people I'm sure like don't necessarily want everything that I'm giving them, but that's what I would want.
Mm.
Because I've seen, because my narrative style is very much like, okay, here's what's exactly what's going on in the scene. And I've seen like actors kind of pause for a minute, expecting to just go, 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 because that's kind of voiceover, you just hit lines. But it's like, narrative situations, you want, them to understand exactly the context. And so I'll give them what I would want, but I can see sometimes actors aren't used to that and they'd have to like get used to it, and then they're fine. But yeah, it just depends.
Um, how do we're kind of talking about like the marrying of acting and directing, and I know Brooke, you kind of preach as an actor to kind of like separate your directing brain when you're doing auditions, but is that opposite when you're directing? Do you try to put more of your acting brain while you're directing?
No, they're radically different.
They're completely different.
Like I can't direct myself. That's why I have to do the audition thing where if I do an audition, I walk away for an hour because I have to separate myself from it so I can kick over to the directing brain and listen to my stuff subjectively.
What about when you're directing somebody?
So when I'm directing somebody, the acting part helps because I know how to talk to the actor to get to a point.
Okay.
Right, and that's why you'll see sometimes a lot of executive producers in animation or something, um, they don't know how to talk to an actor. So what happens is it devolves to a lot of line reads because that's sort of the fast way they know how to do it. But it's like every actor, and the problem, well, and another thing as a director is not all actors are built the same. All of us have a different tool belt that we're coming into. So as a director, you sort of have to get a shorthand with the actor to figure out how to get them to a place. And I just think that being an actor helps you as a director get to that because you kind of know what things can need to be said to you to get to a place, and so you sort of mold that into an actor's process.
So it helps a lot with like communicating.
100%. Oh yeah.
Is there anything else anyone wanted to add? How acting kind of helps with directing?
I think for me at least, it made me a more confident director because I knew the other side of the booth. So, and I knew what the directors were going through too, because I've been on the other side of the booth and how to approach. So, as a director, it made me more confident in knowing how to speak to an actor when or if they're having trouble hitting a scene. And also just gives you, as Brooke was saying, just gives you the language to change and adapt as necessary. Um, yeah. And also it's like as an actor, sorry, I just had another thought. But as an actor, you also when you make the transition to director and you realize that you can speak to the actors in order to if they're having trouble and then you say something and then they get it and you're like, oh, I like you helped them in that sense. It does build your confidence also as an actor on the other side too, to know, okay, I know my craft at least.
I wanted to say something real quick to Jessica's point in the chat. Jessica wrote the director's kind of like a pitcher in a baseball game. I think it's reversed. I think that the director is the catcher and the actor is the pitcher because the catcher is giving the pitcher signals of what pitch they want to them, and then the pitcher delivers. So in this analogy, the ball is the performance. I just wanted to throw. I like baseball too much, but I also wanted to throw it out there because it was there and it was in my noggin. So
Nice.
Brain wasn't wrapping
Sports.
around that. I was like, sure.
yeah, just let it wash over you.
I was like, basketball. How can I translate to this basketball?
Very nice. I guess in terms of, like your acting background helps you communicate with the actors. What if the actor isn't quite hitting your direction? What are kind of ways or techniques you use to help them kind of like pivot? I could call on somebody. Oh,
Just raising her hand.
See a
Can I go?
hand.
Okay. Okay, so I usually like let's say like we want to dig deeper into like a nice monologue or something in like a narrative game. I like sometimes giving like more like okay what's happening in between each like because it's like in Excel, it's like that's what scripts are, right? They're like in the little Excel. So it's like okay, you're kneeling down at the garden and on this line, and then you dust off your hands between line 1 and 2, and then you stand up slowly and you look at the like kind of giving more of a visual for the actor to kind of really see the scene in their heads, because we got nothing in video games, we just got our imagination, and maybe a context column. So I kind of like breaking it down more and giving the actor more to work with. I also like helping like give like actions to do, like physical things to do. Like, okay, maybe on this line, just reach out and physically do that because, the way your body is will translate into your acting. So I like trying to give little things like that to kind of shift the delivery to what we're kind of looking for. That's what I have to say on that.
nice. Anyone else?
I think why that question is kind of hard for me is because it really depends on what they're struggling with.
Okay. So it's
If it
case by
is
case and
like,
situational.
yeah, because if it is like a physicality thing, at least for ADR, for example, if it is like a physicality thing and they're just not matching the physicality of the character, that's something I can be like, okay, you see how like their shoulders are kind of bunched up or whatever, or you see how they're throwing it, like just kind of I would want that motion, etc. Versus if they're having trouble understanding the context or like the way that it flows within the scene, if it's a line, or like the subtext, that would be like a different approach for me. I would say like, okay, so what's happening here? And changing like the meaning, so to speak, of the the line so that it fits the subtext of what's actually being said, if that makes sense. If I'm saying like hello, the line is like hello, I would be like, okay, that sounded great. This hello, this is actually like your estranged sister and you haven't seen them for a long time. Something like that. Um, yeah.
Nice. Um, we as actors, there's something I like to call the actor brain, where you start to like second guess yourself. I'm sure you've experienced that as a director, seeing that from an actor. How do you kind of reassure the actor that they're kind of like doing a good job, or do you,
Well,
or do you
I
not?
mean, we all know actors are fragile creatures. Um, I think, but it's true. But I think there is a lot of positive reinforcement. I used to work with a director who would tell actors, "Oh, that was pretty good." The worst thing you could say to an actor, but he didn't know. He just felt like, yes, it was pretty good, great, I liked it. And to an actor, pretty good means you're settling, or I didn't give you, yeah. And so, but I mean, for me, it's a lot of just positive reinforcement. I really get into it a lot. I laugh with the actors. I do this. I mean, I try to have a good time, because if you keep it light and airy, the actors feel comfortable. Once an actor feels comfortable, um, I think just good things happen. And I think that's the thing. An actor, if they come in and they're sort of nervous and this and that, I haven't done my job in like chilling out with them, right? And a lot of times if I have time, I'll do almost like a D&D session 0 with an actor, where I'll hang out with them ahead of time and be like, yeah, this is the project, this is what we're going to be doing, and do you have any questions, and blah, and then we just go in and do the work. um and I think once you do that, at least in my opinion and my experience, I have found that actors are usually at that point pretty chill and good, good to go.
Can I just say, like Brooke has directed me before, and I remember like no, to you are so amazing, because I remember the first session we had like a bajillion years ago. The first thing you said to me was like "Padiv," which means hello in Armenian, and just that instant connection to like something personal that like I care about was like, okay, this guy's super chill, you know? Like immediately I was like at home in the session, and we had a great time. We finished what we needed to, and like I felt great the rest of the day. Like I think being a good director and like having a connection with the actor, and joking around or just making them feel comfortable can, I know some of our sessions will always feel like work, but going a little extra and above and beyond will make the actor's day, and hopefully yours too.
Oh,
Yeah.
shad no hadam.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
Oh, lovely. Stephanie, do you use positive reinforcement?
I mean, we're going through so many takes and you're like, nice, just nice.
Yeah.
That's one of my go-tos, just like, but usually I mean it, usually. but but
Oh no.
Nice.
yeah. No, so uh, I mean, always I'll leave a little bit of space in the time in the beginning for small chat. How are you? And end up talking about the weather. How is it in Nebraska? Whatever. But you have a little bit of small talk in the beginning. But if I'm being honest, like probably 80% of the time, I don't have a lot of time to be like, we have
Mm-hmm.
to go. Like, we're not given a ton of time to get a ton of line counts done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, small chit chat, and then we're in. And then, it's just overall, like, it's generally never a thing,
Mm-hmm.
people are, usually just like once they get in the booth, they're pros. They already know.
Mhm.
But I did so just this week we finished up on one of the games I'm working on. We do ASMR sessions. And these ASMR, you know what ASMR, it's like the head. You've all seen the Neumann head. It's just this like head with these ears, and
Yeah.
each ear has a microphone. And like,
Oh, weird.
so basically, I have to block the whole scene. Um, and I'm so it's stage direction on top of the direction. But with these particular ASMRs, like it's gotten spicy. Let's just say that it's gotten spicy. And so, um, I mean, don't get me wrong, these actors are like I've been working with them for years, so like we're all very comfortable with each other. But it is one of those things where it's like I like in the beginning, like one of my actors that had like a particular the worst one, like really
Oh.
spicy, where we call it they do the do. So, yeah, he had that scene or that, yeah, and and I basically was like, I am so sorry. So sorry, but yeah, you're doing the do. But this is gonna be fun. But
I
at that point, it's all about, oh, sorry, it's all about
No,
humor
no,
at that point.
you're no, that was great. That's perfect. But I wanted to ask, when you're in these situations, and this kind of is for everyone, but like, how do you kind of create that safe space for the actor? So because they are going to be so vulnerable and do things like that.
Well, in this case, first of all, it definitely helps that, we've been working together for years. So
Mhm.
in that way, that's okay. Like they automatically feel safe with me. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was just saying it's really all about humor. Like
Mm.
you just bust out the funnies every single time. It's like, they go through like a very breathy scene and then you just like bust out laughing afterwards and everybody's laughing and then it's like fine. But no, humor is that's
So you try
kind
to
of the
have
only way.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And they appreciate, like if it ends up feeling less I guess awkward for them if we're all
Mhm.
laughing. It's like I'm laughing, they're laughing at themselves, the
Mhm.
engineer's laughing, we're all into it. So it's kind of like, yeah, I mean that's what automatically makes things safe, right? It's just like
Mhm.
humor if you're just like having fun. So yeah, that's what I would say, humor.
What about the opposite of that, Fran? Because you've directed some more like intense, kind of dramatic scenes. How do you kind of create that safe space?
I think it's what Brooke and Stephanie are already talking about, which is creating that environment right from the beginning to know, because usually we're not going to go straight into the dramatic, intense scenes. Like I had on a show I just directed, we had a couple of things. We had like an abusive father relationship, and we had a parent going through dementia and dealing with that, and like strong outbursts and such like that. But usually, what I try to do is, make the connections with the actors. Someone once told me that, you know, you should never go in thinking, for example, that an actor can't do the job. You want them to succeed and you want
Mhm.
them to feel safe. So creating that space, whether it's like humor or just talking to them between takes, just getting to know them as like a person
Mhm.
versus just like an actor and a director, so that when you get to these more dramatic spaces, you can be like, it's kind of like, okay, that was great. Let's get down to this kind of work now, and there's a whole tone shift. And knowing, and I think making them feel safe too gives the actor not only the permission to go where they need to go, but also gives them the feeling that like, hey, we're in this together. I'm here if you need me. We're going to work through this together, and here's what's going on. Here's the scene. Let me know if you, and almost kind of like not catering to them, but making sure that they are okay too, because you don't, for those kinds of scenes, if anything's triggering anything like that, you want to be a compassionate human being
Mhm.
with them. It's not just about the work. And I think having that established in the beginning helps the actor feel more comfortable going to those places. And also in terms of like ADR, if it's not matching, sometimes you might have to go there multiple times because something's just not fitting or anything like that. So having the luxury to be like, okay, we're going to get through this together. We're going to work on this together to get to where you need to be. And then we'll go talk about something else after and we'll move on. But usually, I try at least not to give that actor the I try to establish the character and have more of a space before we get into the dark, gritty stuff.
Yeah.
Unless like that's the only thing they're called in for, in which case I'm like, I'm so sorry, but great meeting you. Here's your scene.
Speaking of directing, I mean, we have been, but Stephanie, I know you have to go to a session soon,
Yes,
right?
soon, yes.
So before you leave, I'd like to ask you, what is the most fulfilling part of directing for you?
Oh, oh.
And if everyone else can stay, that'd be great. But if you guys have to leave too, that's fine too.
The most fulfilling, the paycheck. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I'm half kidding. I do like the paycheck. Paycheck is good.
Okay.
No, fulfilling. I mean, usually, oh my gosh, it's so much work. It's so much work. Um, and I'm truth be told, most all of the work for me is just it's the prep, because once you get in the session, it's either plug and play, or just like you're having fun. So it's not, it doesn't feel as worky. But like most fulfilling, I mean, like when you're done and everybody's happy, clients happy, clients like, oh yeah, to the actor, I love your voice, we loved it, it was great. And then, everybody's happy, the actor's happy. That's the most fulfilling is like when you're done and everybody's happy. And then also, you're done for the day, so you're done. And then you get your paycheck.
There we go. And then if you, Stephanie, could go back in time to when you first started directing, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh man.
I'm sorry.
Nike, just do it.
Just do it. Just do it.
Because
I
like
like
in the
that.
beginning, I was waffling back and forth. When I
Mhm.
was offered like, oh, would you want to? I was kind of like, this doesn't feel like me. It doesn't feel like something I would be doing. But then like, it's yeah, I had this whole process of trying to figure out like I should just do it. Yeah, I feel like I need to do it. I should do it. So yeah, Nike, just do it.
Nice. And look at where you are now. Yay. On a panel with friends.
Oh yay. Exactly.
But I'll go ahead and let you go, Stephanie, because I know you have to get to
Sweet.
your session.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
joining
Oh,
us
thank you so
tonight.
much for having me. Good seeing all of your faces.
You as
Love
well.
you.
Have a
Hopefully I get
good
to see you
night.
guys soon.
Yeah. Have a
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
session.
have a good rest of the panel thing.
Thank
Happy
you.
Bye
holidays.
guys.
Love
Happy
Bye.
you.
holidays. Bye.
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 Boy. If I can figure out how to leave, I
There's like a little
will.
X at the bottom corner.
Exit. Sweet.
Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Awkward second exit. Bye.
And yeah, if you guys are okay with continuing, um, I guess to everyone who is here, how has directing helped you as an actor? We can go with Fran.
Sure. Oh, I see. So the order has
Yeah,
changed
it's
instead.
shifted.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just
we
shifted
all
to the left.
moved around.
Yeah. I think it just gave me more confidence because I think I have like I am more inclined to an actor brain than I am to like a director brain, if that makes in terms of
Mm.
like the imposter syndrome aspect of it. But I think, it just gave me more confidence in knowing what exactly is going on the other side. Because obviously there are like long silences when you're in the booth and when you're going in, you're like, oh, what are they talking about? And it literally is like lunch, or can you move this to the left, or things like that has nothing to do with you, or even just understanding, the casting process of just being like, it has nothing to do with your performances or anything. Like everyone did great. It's literally just what this puzzle needs right now. So having that knowledge and knowing at least what the other side is going through gave me more confidence as an actor to just let it go and just be able to be an actor rather than trying to be all these different things.
Mm-hmm. I love that. What about for you, Katiana?
Kind of what Fran said, because I think when you're the actor, you're like in the trenches, like you're kind of just seeing the things that are in front of you. but the director has like the bird's eye view. And again, going back to the puzzle, you're just one puzzle piece in this giant story, and the director's job is to put them all together and make sure that every character tells what they need to say and do what they need to do and all that stuff to make sure that the holistic story turns out good. So it helps you get out of your head.
Very nice. And what about for you, Brooke?
I will. I'll talk dubbing. I will say directing anime has made my timing hyper clean as an actor. Because as an actor, you just go in and okay, you're watching flaps from a TV 5 or 6 feet away, right? As a director, I'm like, and it's funny because on all this, I've noticed that so I mean, just on a dubbing thing, it's weird, I don't know. It's like you view timing as a director completely differently, and then when I'm in the booth, it just it almost feels like when Neo saw the Matrix, right? And right, it's almost like you've unlocked this weird key.
Do you feel like your dubbing sessions go by faster because you are hitting like the timing quicker?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I feel like my cues per hour increase, but
That's very
Also, I
cool.
feel like it gives you confidence to say something as a dubbing actor to be like, oh, that flap is a little weird. Do you mind if we try this word
yeah, but
instead?
then it's like
You know,
I feel bad because I'm
I'm
like I don't
like,
want to step on the director's
I know,
toes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I think like I agree. Like I think I look at it too that way. And I'm also like, can we just try this one thing?
Yeah, I always do that too. I'm like, can I give you an alt just so I can sleep tonight?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a pretty good line. I guess in regards to dubbing, because they're typically from other languages, as directors, have you picked up on like words or phrases from other languages or like even like cultural thingies? Maybe yes.
And I work a lot with Japanese,
Mm-hmm.
and well, I studied Japanese, so that's kind of cheating. But Korean, I picked up little things.
Have you been able to like use it in the real world yet?
I used it once with a
Oh wow!
Korean engineer. I don't remember what I said,
Oh,
so it just flew by.
Oh, that engineer remembers what you said.
Yeah, they're like, you insulted my people.
Doing.
what about you, Brooke? Could you?
I don't. Yes. I mean, nani. I mean, I know. I mean, I've picked up little Japanese bits here and there. I will mispronounce almost every Japanese word without fail, 100%. That's part of my rustic charm. Yeah. I mean, I made the mistake of taking German in high school, so I took a language that didn't help me at all. Though I have done some German live action dubs where all of a
There you
sudden I'm like,
go.
hey, this works.
There you
um,
go.
yeah, so yeah, you pick up a little bit here and there. I think if you see enough Japanese after a while, there's just parts of it that just you can't help but
Hmm.
it just sinks in.
What about you for you, Katiana? Have you?
I have not directed any dubbing yet, hopefully in the future. However, I did work with an actor who needed to do little bits of Korean in their dialogue. That was interesting because I don't speak Korean, but our client did. So it was kind of just that I forget what the baseball analogy thing was, Brooke, but I just, gave all the information to the actor and they home run or whatever. And then the client.
Well, you know what? We'll workshop it and get back.
Okay. But you do your best to give um as much context information. The actor, went for it, and then the client was kind of there to, you know, say, "Oh, try it a little like this." So at that point I kind of had to let go of the reins and kind of, just let them do their thing, and then once the Korean lines are done, I was like, "All right, cool. Back to what I know." Yeah. That's
Very,
my story.
very, very cool. I love it. When you are in the booth as an actor and you're listening and you're getting direction, do you go, "Oh, I liked how they said that. I'm gonna file away and start using that," or do you just completely just like, "Nope, I'm here to act only"?
I think you should always be learning, right? I don't think you should ever close yourself off to any information that's coming at you, because what are we but an amalgamation of our experiences? And if we're not, I mean, that's like I said, I told myself I want to be the type of director I'd want to work with. So I was always like picking little pieces of like, ooh, I like how they did that. I like what they said to this actor or this and that. I have a thing when I'm directing dubs. I'll tell an engineer, "Ooh, move that 4 frames to dinner, or put that 2 frames to breakfast." Right? Because I heard someone do that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a brilliant way to tell an engineer which way to move a file. Breakfast to the left and dinner to the right. It just makes sense. So little things like that, because if I didn't have that, I'd be messing up. Oh, move it back, and then to them, back is like the opposite way of what I want it
Mm.
move. So little things like that you just pick up, but you have to be open to that. You know.
Breakfast dinner thing
And
is something that like I heard and I'm like, what are you saying?
Well, and
But
I
it
also,
works.
and I'm always thinking about food, so it's really on brand.
There. Fran, were you saying something?
I think I latch on to things that I don't like, actually,
Oh.
more. Um, like if I'm in a booth and someone says something and I'm like, oh, that's not really working for me. Like I'll have the process later, not in the booth, but there's a moment where you're like, oh, okay, I don't really know what they're trying to say, but I think it's this. And
Mm.
like that's also just another learning aspect too. We can take what we like and also understand what we don't like and use that way.
Uh,
Hmm.
does anyone have examples of things that they do like receiving direction wise?
I guess just I really liked like a director was the first one to be like, "Hey, try saying this line with this motion and da da da," and that's how I started incorporating it into my style. It was subconscious. It wasn't like, "Oh, as soon as I said that, I'm going to use that when I do a session." But it you kind of learn in sessions what you like and don't like. And you kind of store it, file it away for later. But yeah.
I love it because I've heard like a director say like, oh, I'm going to kind of direct you wrong so I know how to direct you right. Um, is
that
there anything like
that
that
What
that
does
you?
that
that mean?
that sounds like a massive waste of time. That's
It's just
weird.
like their
And
it was their thing. I might be misquoting
Oh,
them,
I don't
but
know. That would be odd, because like, well, I mean, unless you have infinite time, right, to direct someone a weird way to move you back.
I
I don't know.
I
I
think
don't
it
even know
might
how
have
you
think
been
I
to
know.
like kind of like loosen them up kind of thing.
Oh,
I
maybe.
think I know what you're talking about. Like
Mhm.
go doing the exaggerated so that you can kind of find the middle
Mhm.
ground between the two.
Mhm.
Um, I've heard that before. I
Hmm.
think in workshops and stuff. I haven't experienced it in a session. Um, but I think also like sessions are a bit different from workshops. Like in
Mhm.
workshops, you're not getting like, okay, what's happening right before. You're kind of there to make a choice
Yeah.
and hopefully impress someone, or learn something. But
Mhm.
with a session, they're giving you the right context. You're locked into the character. You know the tone of the game or whatever anime or animation. So
Mhm.
I don't think that happens as often, but please, Fran and Brooke, correct me if I'm wrong.
I just don't see where you would have the time. I mean, our things are
Mhm.
so tight. Even in like prelay animation, where you have a little more time to play in a sandbox,
Mhm.
um, I would it would that to me is not intuitive, because I don't want to set an actor up in a weird direction and then move them back to what I want. I'd rather just get
Mhm.
them to what we want together at the same time.
I
But it
see.
is, maybe it's a workshop thing, just to sort of like play
Mhm.
right, and then I don't know. Yeah, Fran's confused face is how I feel inside.
I'm
Gotcha.
like, yeah, I'm like, why would you do that to the actor? And also to, yeah, the session because you want to get it done. I'm very, that just like, my brain just like seized up on that. I was,
Okay, so bad question. Um,
No
so
bad questions.
no.
What are things directors can do for you to make you feel comfortable? Because I know, Katiana, you said, saying hello and in like your native tongue and stuff like that really
Yeah.
made you feel welcomed. Is there anything else that directors can kind of do to help you feel more comfortable?
Well, you don't have to learn the actor's native language, but it is sweet if you do know it. But just again, like kind of connecting on a personal level, or humor is always great, as we talked about. Um, if the actor's on the younger side and the client's chill and they like know that I'm competent, sometimes I'll throw in slang like "boots the house down" or "you ate that up." It's not for everyone. I can't say that to like a 50-year-old woman who's coming in, but if they're young, like little ways to kind of help everyone realize, hey, we're on the same team and we're all working together, is what I would say.
If you ever want me to give a confused read, whatever you just said, that'll get me there. I will not have a clue.
You did again, but with a subtext of
Yeah.
That's why I said it's not for everyone, the slang.
But that's a good point though, because what you're doing is you're molding process to your
Yeah.
audience.
Mhm.
Right. And right. Someone grizzled like me, I'm not going to know what that is, right? But you wouldn't say it to me, probably.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
that's the thing. It's that personal sort of connection to the actor. It's not a blanket thing, right? It's getting to know them, and plus if you work with someone long enough, you're like, oh, how was your trip last week? Or how's so and so? Those little things, and it means a lot to anybody that you're showing any sort of interest in what's going on with them and being legitimate about it. It's not just lip service. You really, I mean, you want to know. And it's, I think too, the actor director relationship is so special because you're building something together, right? And it's like you're almost a director and an actor are being vulnerable together, right? Because at the end of the process, you've both kind of put your heart and soul into making something at the end of the day you can be proud of, And I think that's kind of cool because there's a bond that forms there. It's like you've been through battle together, and you can only do that with someone you trust both ways. The actor has to trust the director that the director is going to help to get them someplace, and the director has to trust the actor's process.
So, Brooke, if you were being directed by Katiana and you did your line, and Katiana said, "Oh, you ate that up," how would that make you feel?
Well, it seems like food related, so I'd probably feel okay. I don't. I mean, I don't know. I would be like, is that good?
um Unrelated to eating stuff up, one thing that I also have experienced before, one director I remember that came into the session in person would stand. Actually, a couple directors did this before. They would stand, like especially when it came to battle barks and stuff. As an actor, you're doing the physical movements. You're like closing in if you're getting punched in the gut for an effort, or you're getting the shoulder recoil if you're getting shot in the shoulder. So the director would stand up while I was in the booth and almost do the same motions with me, and going off of like what Brooke was saying with like we're in it together. And I think that's really cool, and I would love to do that when the next project happens. Like, I want to do that too because I really appreciated it as an actor. Um, so it's really sweet to see that synergy.
Um,
Real quick, just to piggyback.
mhm.
All right, name drop, name drop. So at DreamWorks, something I noticed that was really cool. So when we worked on Trollhunters, every once in a while, Guillermo del Toro would come in, and he would direct somebody. And one of the and I got to sit next to him for like 3 hours doing his circle takes once, which was like mind blowing. Guillermo actually likes to sit in the booth with the talent. He doesn't like the separation. And I actually, once I took over and I was doing the shows, there were a couple of actors that I would actually sit in with because I felt it helped the performance and actually helped me as a director too, because it felt like I was much more connected to the process. So we can't do that all the time, but I always think it should be an option. If you want to sit in with the talent and scene read with them, bounce stuff back and forth, it's such a powerful experience to not have that glass barrier between you.
Mm.
Mm. Um, Jessica wants to know if anyone is able to talk about their best session experiences or their most challenging ones as a director. You can be vague.
Hmm. Best or challenging?
Katiana, do you want?
I yeah, there was one session that I directed, and it was a character that was like an older woman in their 50s or maybe even older, 60s or something. And like if anybody has played these like Bethesda games, like the characters are from all over the place, of all ages. They're all like super quirky, but then they'll have really cool backstories. And so this character was like Dutch and Persian, and the accent was awesome. And the actress came in ready to rock, and she's like, "Oh, you're Armenian. I'm Armenian too." And again, Padev, da, da, da. So we kind of, you know, talked about that. But then the character herself was so zany and so fun and witty, and just the writing was so intelligent, and she's always the one who's in complete control of the of whatever's going on, the scene. And then we get to one part of the script that she just delivers the most like heart-wrenching monologue, and it's just about the bombs and losing her family or something just so sad. And I remember like getting emotional and like tearing up on the other side. I was like, all right, let's keep the A all day.
Mm-hmm.
Aww.
And
Aw.
it just made me like so happy to be there and be the director on that session, because these stories are just so amazing, and I know that they resonate, like audiences at home who play these games resonate with at least some part of it, you know? Um and it just reminded me like I'm every day that I come into a session, I'm really grateful for it, and I'm really happy to be here. And that was like my favorite session personally.
Fran, do you have?
I'm trying to think of like a specific moment because there's so many like little like yay moments. Um, I think when I was working on Kingdom, which was my first project, there was a character who's a prince and he has to deliver like a huge speech to rile up these villagers to fight for the war and stuff like that. Um and the actor was doing so great, and we had the luxury for a dub of having the time to go through and go moment by moment, which we don't always do. But it was great because we actually he and I like started having a discussion, and he was playing off me and I was playing off him, and he was he was really open, and he was like, oh, what if this, what if that, and we would be like, okay, let's just try it, and we'd do it, and then it would be like, okay, that was great, I think we can do this, and what do you think of this subtext? So we were actually like working together as director and actor in such a way that like by the end we were both like, oh, that was so fun, it's so great. And,
Aww.
like we were both in tears. And he ended up winning an award for that performance, which was amazing to hear. So
Wow.
like at the end we were like, yay, but it was really that just like that beautiful moment where we were allowed to collaborate as two artists. Like especially for dubbing sessions, you don't often have that time to do it, but
Mm-hmm.
we were able to do it. And it just felt rewarding once we were able to like finish that episode. It was because we had the chance to work on it together and really collaborate in the trenches.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. So
Yeah.
nice. Anything like that for you, Brooke?
It's funny. All of our stories revolve around crying and
I think that's
That's
yeah.
what it's all
perfect.
about.
So all right. So uh, Star Trek Prodigy.
Oh,
Um, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and if anyone's seen the show, it gives some nice, beautiful connective tissue back to Voyager. So Kate Mulgrew plays Janeway on our show, and for 20 years since Voyager's done, I've also been, if you know Voyager, it was Janeway and her first officer Chakotay, and it was this sort of like there was a chemistry between them, but it was like never necessarily romantic, but it could be, and this and that. Well, anyways, so we're doing the show, and Kate Mulgrew, you don't direct Kate Mulgrew necessarily. Who knows Janeway better than Kate Mulgrew? So I'm kind of there with a pinky on the wheel just to keep the ship going straight, right? And I am a big, we re-recorded the entirety of Prodigy pretty much through COVID, so it was all remote. And so I like to do scene reads with the actors, especially on prelay animation, just because it helps us get to places and everything. So we get to an episode. It's Janeway and Chakotay. They're sort of reuniting after 20 real years. I'm going to do the scene read with Kate, and I'm going to be Chakotay. And I read the scene with her, and it was like all of this pent up sort of wanting to see this moment play out over 20 years, and I was a part of it. And at the end, I wept because it was just such a powerful moment. And Kate was like, okay. She goes, take your time, and then we'll do it again. Right? It's like she almost directed me, and then we jump back in, we did it again. But it was, for me, it was just such a powerful moment, personally and professionally, to be able to be in that like position. And yeah, and she was just so gracious, and yeah, just thinking about it now gets me a little, because it was just
Aw.
such a powerful, it was such a powerful, um, it was a powerful moment.
I
And
love that everyone's kind of like favorite moments is that the connection with someone else, which I think it comes with the territory. I think you have to have those
yeah,
things. So sweet. Um, I'm gonna ask two final questions from everyone as we kind of like wrap up here, and we're gonna start with Fran, because you were
Okay,
first on my
no
little
pressure, but all the pressure.
I'm
um
ready.
what is the most important piece of advice you have for actors who also want to become directors?
I think Brooke kind of answered it, but always keep learning.
Mm.
Uh, be open to experiences. Um, Again, I think learn the business of that you're in. I think it's super important to just know the industry, know like the ins and outs, know what's going on, know the trends and such. Um, you know, even as actors, you constantly are told to like watch all the shows and see like what the trends are now in animation and all of that. And I think that's important if you want to direct to just know what's going on, but also know like again, know the production, know how behind the scenes work, get your hands in it, keep yourself open. Um, and know it's similar to like acting. It's a journey, and it'll come when it comes, and you'll when you're ready, you'll be ready. But just to keep yourself open to all experiences and learning aspects all the time.
Aw. And the second question is, what are you looking forward to this new year?
I just had like a flashback of politics. Um, and I
No,
was like,
not
what
that.
am I looking forward to? No, nothing political. What am I looking for? I don't have anything lined up on the directing side, but I'm just looking forward to a new environment and seeing what occurs. I'm I'm keeping myself open to the experiences of what is being brought to me.
Yeah, that one
Um,
does not have to be directing related. Just so something that you're excited for
uh,
2025.
yeah, I think something's coming out that I'm really excited
Oh,
about.
okay.
I think the day after Christmas, but um, and yeah, I think just seeing what this new year brings, because honestly, I don't know what what
Who
it's gonna
knows?
bring. So yeah, I'm just like, let's just be for a second, and that's okay.
I
And
love
that's a
that.
big step for me to kind of just accept
Just
that.
be.
Yeah, I'm not that kind of person usually, so
Mm-hmm.
now I'm just gonna accept it and see what comes from it.
Ah, lovely. Katiana, what's a piece of advice you would give someone who wanted to, an actor who wanted to start directing?
I think Fran covered a lot of it. I think if I were to add something, maybe just mm, maybe like I this is something that was told like as advice to me or like what I have heard from like my like Maddie Stratton, who's also a director. Love her. She's amazing. And one thing that she always says is like when I direct, I don't have an ego, right? It's a collaborative process and I'm learning from the actor, I'm listening to the client, and we're gonna make something together. So I guess I just pass that along. Um, like if the client wants a specific kind of select or something and you like let's say you selected B, the client selects A, yeah, sure. Or like, you could argue them on it, but delicately. But just, it is a collaborative process and we're all making something together. So even though you're kind of steering the ship, you need everyone to float. I don't know with the metaphors.
I like that. Put
That's
it on a shirt.
yeah. I avoided sports this time for Brooke.
Okay, well done, well done.
Um
And then what is something you're looking forward to, 2025?
I think I need to get a hobby
Oh,
outside of work. My friends have been teaching me Magic the Gathering. I'm super excited. I think some of them are in the chat. Hi guys. But I'm looking forward to not
weren't you building computers for a hot minute?
me?
Yeah, didn't you say?
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I hit someone up to build my computer for
Oh,
myself.
okay.
Yeah, I don't do the building. I not me. But yeah, I'm gonna learn Lathrall. That's gonna be exciting. Um
Love that
yeah, I
one.
think I just need to I am really grateful for all the amazing things I've done with my career so far. Knock on wood, and I hope it'll keep continuing, but I think for my own like internal happiness, I need to also find joy outside of work, which is, I think, something that actors, directors, anyone in this industry can benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's great advice. You
Yeah.
need to find something outside of work.
Yeah.
Like board games.
Like
Or
board
Board
games.
D&D.
Or
Yeah.
D&D. Yeah.
D&D. Wow.
Or
A bunch
dice
of
collecting for
nerds on this
D&D.
panel, myself included. Brooke, for you, what is a piece of advice? Unless everyone has said all your pieces of advice.
Yeah, shadowing is, I think it's great. It's difficult because a lot of us we do have clients that don't want someone that's not attached to the thing to sit there. Um, but yeah, I mean, don't close yourself off to opportunities and really make a habit of really watching the next session you're in, a director and what they're doing. I think that is, like I said, that's the free lesson, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it's more than a free lesson. You're getting paid to act, so you're actually making money watching someone work.
Yeah, you're on
So
the up.
you're on the, I mean, you're just, yeah, you're making money. So, but watch, because, every director is different. And it's always good to sort of see what you like and what you don't. It's kind of a skills buffet. And then you just, and the workshops that yeah, start directing your peers, direct
Mm-hmm.
friends. Directing's weird. There's no weird one path to it, just like voice acting. And also, it's one of those things that you really only can learn it by doing it. And that's, yeah. So there's that.
Good to know. And what is something you're looking forward to in 2025?
Oh, thrive in 25. All right. 2025 for me is a big year. In April, I turned 50.
Ooh.
And so I am actually designating 2025 as sort of my reinvention year. I'm redoing all of my demos. I'm actually going to start taking a ass load of classes. I'm basically going to sort of break myself down to my base components and then rebuild myself back up. I just think that I've been doing things for so long that I don't want to say it's stale, but I've just gotten to a point where I feel like I'm comfortable and I don't like
Mm,
being comfortable and complacent. And so I'm going
mm,
to actually, so a lot of you might see me in classes you might be taking because I'm actually going, it's my go back to school year just to sort of
mm,
Rebranding
well,
era.
we're always learning, and so I think it's for me it's just one of those things. And plus I want to start doing more. I'm garbage on social media. I know I should be better, but I'm not. I'd love to stream, but I'm old and tech
Yeah.
confuses me, but I'd love to start streaming. um just wink wink to June,
Oh,
to help. But things like that. I would just like to, I don't know, put myself a little more out there, and make these next 50 years. This would be the platform for that,
I
mm.
love it. I'm
and
excited to
continue to
see.
play board games and D&D.
Do you have a
Nice.
favorite board game right now?
Um, Nemesis. It's basically
Okay.
like take the movie Alien
Ah,
and make a board game out of it. So
nice.
Cool, 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 cool,
Very
cool.
cool.
it's
Well,
thematically great.
I'm excited to see some spicy noodle challenges on your stream.
I love I love a despise.
But yeah, that kind of wraps up our panel tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We raised a lot of money. I haven't calculated all the money total, but for the Game Audio Diversity Alliance, once I kind of process these videos, I'll let everyone know the totals. So thank you everyone for your donations. And thank you all for being here and for yapping away with me. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you all have a great holiday and happy New Year.
Happy New
Thanks,
Happy
Year.
New
Todd.
Year.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll talk to you later.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.